The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and thanks for joining today's webinar looking at how CASB can help address some of the most critical cloud application and shadow IT risks. My name is Shona Bradshaw. I'm the Marketing Manager for Bytes Security Partnerships, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Dave Barnett, who's the Head of EMEA CASB from our Platinum Partner Forcepoint. Just to give you a quick overview of the agenda for today's session, I will do a short introduction to Bytes. I will keep it short, as I know many of you know as well already, and then do a little bit of introduction in terms of setting the scene for today's session. I'm talking around why cloud applications need additional security and some of the challenges that the cloud transformation movement has brought. I will be introducing Dave from Forcepoint, and he'll be taking you through the crux of today's presentation, looking at the emergence of shadow IT as a critical attack vector, looking at how strategies and solutions that businesses can adopt to tackle application risk and challenges when developing the cloud, and then walk you through how CASB can be used as a powerful tool in the security arsenal to overcome many of these cloud challenges. So a bit of housekeeping for today's session. Attendee lines will be on mute throughout today's presentation, but we do welcome questions. Please do post those questions via the chat or the questions box as they occur to you throughout the webinar, and I will be monitoring that and asking questions in an interactive Q&A at the end. We do keep discussions today to strategy and solutions. We won't be getting into detail on any financials on this particular session. Of course, those conversations are more than welcome post-event with your Bytes account manager and with the Forcepoint team directly. We are recording today's session so that you can choose to share that within your wider business and review at your leisure. And lastly, a quick request from me. We do have a feedback survey at the end, a short 5-question survey in order to understand how this session's hit the mark, whether it's hit the mark for you technically. So please do take just a minute at the end of the survey to fill that in. Would be much appreciated. So who are Bytes? Bytes Security Partnerships are the security specialist reseller within the Bytes group. We've been focusing solely on network security and information security for more than 16 years now, and we've been acquired by Bytes in 2012. What we really aim to marry up is the agility and the insight and the personal approach you could expect from the smallest specialist partner with the global resources, scale and stability and delivery capability that comes from being part of a multi-billion-dollar group. We're exceptionally proud at Bytes SP of the technical capabilities and capacity that we offer to companies. It's why we have enjoyed top tier statuses such as our platinum relationship with Forcepoint, and we really have built up a centre of excellence here at Bytes SP with a full technical services portfolio. We have one of the few direct to escalation engineer support models in the business, so we don't have first line support, etc., etc. We do this across the full spectrum of information security, from the network firewall through security intelligence, SIM, managed services, data security and cloud security, which we're talking to you about today. And across all of those, our technical services include the actual technology delivery and installation. We offer a full direct-to-engineer 24/7 support centre. We offer project scoping, planning, delivery. And also, we are passionate about speaking to the marketplace around their security strategy, providing them with regular market updates and product updates in order to ensure that people can future-proof their business. So that is more than enough about us. What are some of the key cloud application challenges that Dave's going to be talking to you about circumventing today? So the cloud brings with it a myriad of benefits. It also brings risks and challenges in terms of the security blind spots that occur when you no longer have full control of the data and sitting on premise in your network. So traditional security tools do have known gaps in coverage when they move into the cloud, and this is at the same time blocking people from spinning up their own infrastructure and spinning up their own applications into the cloud, it isn't always an option. So many businesses are actually unaware of the number of shadow IT applications they have, and they don't actually know what the shape of their cloud is. And CASB is a really powerful tool to help get that visibility and control. So without no further ado, I will hand over to Dave. So we're absolutely delighted to welcome him to today's session. It's great to have someone so senior at Forcepoint along and with such a level of expertise within the CASB area to talk to us today around their unified approach to data security across web, email and cloud applications. I'm going to hand over to Dave now. I'll mute myself off and I'll come back on and ask your questions to him at the end.
Thank you so much, Shona. Really appreciate it. If you could just give me a high five when you can see my screen.
I'll give you a verbal high five.
Verbal high five, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, if you can just hear it across now, I'm just going to make you.
Yep. And show my screen. So let me know when you can see. I'm okay with technology, but you know, I've had enough presentations where I end up talking and there's like, there's no slides, Dave. Can you see my screen right now?
So you just need to hit play and it should pop up full screen. Perfect.
Oh. You can hit play. Okay, no. You can see a big brain, right?
I can see a big brain.
Awesome, thank you so much. And thank you very much indeed for the introduction, Shona. We worked with Bytes for, I think, about 15 years or something, or SP certainly, going back that far. And we've seen an awful lot of consolidation in the industry, and Bytes are really effective in bringing together technologies that can really deliver benefits to customers. And I'm also grateful for the big up, but in actual fact, we're all in a learning phase, right? So there are really no experts. There's only what we can really call best practice or evolving best practice in CASB. I also wanted to thank you who've attended, and also those who are watching on a recording, because you know that means that you're learning and you're gathering information. And what I'm not going to do today is a sales pitch. What I'm going to do is try and represent the industry in terms of what is possible in terms of the cloud risks that we can take away. But let's just talk about shadow IT in a broader sense at the moment, because I was always a skeptic around cloud security. In cloud. I think I first discovered cloud when I was involved in Cloud Security Alliance around about 2009, when they wrote the first, along with EMEA, they wrote the first risk assessment document. And I was thinking of cloud from a technical point of view. I was thinking, why would I really want to put my data and my virtual machines in a data center somebody doesn't own, I don't own, because I can't reboot that server. Somebody else has to do it for me, or I can do it remotely. And all I could see were the cost saving or perhaps the scalability benefits. But I started to realize over time, and I've been in the cloud security kind of marketplace, if you like, now for about 6 years, that cloud to me as a technologist meant different than it does to other people. My children use the cloud to play games and to do their homework. The doctor in an NHS trust would use WhatsApp to pass a picture of a heart from one person to another. Perhaps somebody in a council would use an instant messaging system that they found so that they could communicate with multiple people without actually having to meet them because they're very busy. But very rarely is cloud actually provided by the business, because what happens, I believe, is that cloud comes from the heart. People don't consciously know that they're using cloud. It just feels right. It just feels right to download WhatsApp and communicate with people. It feels right to. And in this generation that we've got, people are going to continue doing what they feel is right. It's an emotional attachment to the process that just happens to be cloud. And this is very, very difficult for us to stop consciously. Because really, the area of our brain that deals with subconscious thought, deals with emotion, deals with happiness. The bit that gets happy when you see your loved one in the morning. If you are having a few drinks with friends at Christmas, it's the endorphin rush that affects the limbic system, which is the system that you can see on screen right now, in red or orange. That's the bit right in the middle that deals with emotions. The problem is, whilst it can see stuff and feel stuff, it can't communicate. So people are going to just carry on using shadow IT regardless. You have no chance in stopping shadow IT, because it's something that people can't explain why it's important. Maybe they can consciously, but it just feels right. what you really need to do is regard shadow IT as being an opportunity for the transformation of digital transformation within your business, the opportunity to maybe leverage your employees as important assets. And CASB has a very strong way of lowering the risk of that. So, talking about lowering risk, what CASB fundamentally does is it lowers the risk of using cloud in multiple ways in order for you to use more. In order for you to say, yes, you can use WhatsApp, or yes, you can use that instant messaging app. Or if you're deploying a cloud application on behalf of your users, it's typically things like Office 365 and Salesforce and stuff. It's lowering the risk of that. But predominantly, it's about allowing people to use more cloud. So along with Bytes, we'd like to talk a little bit about shadow IT up front, some very simple ways to, and a methodology to approach shadow IT. But also we're going to talk a little bit about sanctioned cloud applications. Right at the end, I'd like to talk about one scenario around use of behaviour analytics that might really open your eyes about the art of the possible. So without further ado, I've been working, I joined Forcepoint about 3.5 months ago, and I've worked for, in the CASB space, if you like, as a specialist for about 2.5 years now, for another vendor. And I've seen probably, I'm guessing, about upwards of about 50 implementations of CASB. So I've seen kind of the good and the bad and the ugly, and it's not the technology's problem, it's not the business's problem, it's all somewhere in between. And often the problems are caused by two factors. Oh gosh, I'll put on the bottom is CASB height. Sorry about this, there's a typo, you'll see in a second. CASB height. Gartner, for the last 4 years, has said it's been one of the top 10 security technologies. Even the register is saying that everybody should have a CASB. You know, if you search for register CASB, you'll see why. It's, in their own way, it's very funny. But there's been a lot of hype. So a lot of people have bought CASBs and they don't really know why. I got a great report, but what does that mean? How can my business use that? There's been an awful lot of hope. I'm sorry, the top right, there's a typo. So CASB hope on the top right, hype, it should be hope. And CASB hope is, well, I see the possibility, so maybe it can do something way out there. And the way out there stuff, just the technology just isn't quite there yet. Things like around DevOps. CASB is great for SaaS applications, not so great for rapidly moving DevOps, Dockers, you know, data lakes, federated access around identity where you don't have that control of the identity. So unfortunately, there is an awful lot of scope creep that often comes in and it damages the perception of CASB. But what we do have, and what Bytes and Forcepoint have created, is 55 proven use cases mapped over to business purposes. So we want to lower the risk of using shadow IT. Here's 3 use cases, 3 technical use cases that can do an awful lot towards that. And that's our key advantage, is that we understand how to deliver results with CASB. And that delivers value. Okay, shadow IT. You've probably heard this before, right? What technologists think is the cloud problem is only the tip of the iceberg. On average, you know, an average company. Well, I'll give you an example. At Forcepoint, we've deployed our technology extensively, and no offense to Shona, but the marketing department within Forcepoint is the worst user of shadow IT. They'll find the solution, you know, to move that large file from one A to B if IT doesn't. And that's just the way it is, right? There's over 1,000 cloud applications in use within Forcepoint when we first deployed our shadow IT tool that really has not been provided by IT. Some of them are risky, some of them are not. And it's where do you start? Well, first of all, you must acknowledge that controlling shadow IT is not a security administrator responsibility. It's the responsibility of the business. The shadow IT has an impact on the business. So in creating a cloud governance board is the best possible thing you can do before you even look at shadow IT. So you need to involve the business. The business is concerned about innovation, about getting stuff done. They're not likely to regard bureaucracy as being an enabler. They're concerned about profit. They're concerned about bottom line. Then there's IT, right? IT may be providing tools, but they also probably have an innovation agenda, and they probably want to control the sprawl of tools as well. They probably want to support 5 different file sharing systems. Then security, right? Security are the guys in the dark cloaks and the ladies in the dark cloaks who understand risk, and they have a very strong influence. But also increasingly, people like privacy, GDPR teams, finance and legal, who will be concerned with, you know, if people are signing up to cloud applications, the legal responsibility is them. They're making an agreement, perhaps even on behalf of their company if they're using their work email. How can you repatriate the data? How can you repatriate that risk back into the business? So, first of all, run a shadow IT report. And we provide shadow IT reporting for free within our Forcepoint web gateways, on-premise, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, and the web security, cloud web security, of course. We also can provide shadow IT reports for any other vendors' gateway devices. So your Palo Altos, your Zscalers, your Bluecoats, whatever it happens to be, and we can provide a list of, you know, these are the biggest cloud applications in the most riskiest categories, file sharing, for example, or collaboration. In this case, it's collaboration. You can see now. So and here's the number, and here are where the users are. So in what you can see on screen is Cloud9 IDEs, collaboration tool. There was 738 meg of data uploaded by 3,500 users. It's clearly something that people are making use of. So within the report, that's the report that you'd see within our on-premise gateway, and that's the report that you'd see within our cloud web security. So if you have our products, engage with Bytes and engage with us to give you a health check where we can show you what the, I don't know, top cloud applications by risk level are that are in use right now. It's going to give you really valuable insight. But that valuable insight is going to be useless unless you start to customize it, right? So we can customize that. So we can say, look, you know, in terms of these top 3 cloud applications, I've included GoToMeeting because we've always used it just now. What are the relative risks of those? So you could say, well, look, you know, we need a collaboration tool, right? We're probably going to need one that is conforming with GDPR in terms of encrypting data at rest. Or we want one that's got data hosted in the European Union, or perhaps with Brexit in the UK. Anyway, so you know that you can customize the weighting of what is low, medium, and high risk based upon what matters to you, and we can help you with that, of course. And then what we should do is go and ask the customer, users, say that why Danny ST and Capon GR and SADI MA, why are you using the voucher? Because we've seen that you're doing it, right? We're not going to block it if you tell us it's really important. There might be another way, but just be honest with us. And how about this as an idea? Let your users use cloud applications and then reward them for finding good ones. Have a cloud app of the month that we found. These 2-3 people have been doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, but give them a Marks and Spencer's voucher because we're now going to be regarding that cloud application as important to the rest of the business. We'll mention that in a second. So anyway, go and speak to the users, right? If you don't speak to the users, we get a lot of support calls if you block it. So from the user's point of view, and from the business point of view, it boils down to this, right? There will be cloud applications in your business that people are using they haven't told you about, that for them, they're really important. But they're also too risky to use. It's kind of this paradox, right? So, for example, you may have people that are collaborating with third parties externally. They might need to move large files from your business to their business, or to work on bids, or to work on a manufacturing project where they need to share Teams or Box or Slack or something. But if it's outside of your control, that could be really sensitive data that's going out there. So you need to get some form of control in there, and blocking it could be a really business inhibitor. Is that the word? Inhibitor. Anyway, blocking it might not work. So, going back to the Cloud Governance Board, the loosely coupled email group that you want to create, that needs to make a decision. First of all, we need to baseline. We want to go in and say that these are the top cloud applications. We're going to bite off a manageable size, and we're going to make a decision. And then, on an ongoing basis, with new cloud applications that we found, we're going to make continuing decisions. But the point is, we need to make a decision. Now, allowing and blocking is actually a really simple thing. It's something that is and should be done by the administrators and security people. You are going to allow Google searches, because everyone uses it. You're going to allow news.bbc or The business could make a strategic decision to allow personal email, but that's another thing. Or you could decide to block, right? Blocking is easy. You're going to block it because it's porn. You're going to block it because it's, actual fact, pornography is not illegal in the workplace in Germany. I found that out recently. Are you serious? Welcome to the dark ages. But anyway, blocking it is dead easy, right? It's an obvious one. If it's pornography, or if it's offensive, or if it's illegal, or if it's in some way malicious, block it. But perhaps those users want to actually access that box system for a limited period of time because they want to collaborate with your business partner, and you don't have a way of transferring large data out otherwise. So maybe we should tolerate the use. Maybe we should go to the user and say, sure, use it for that purpose for a couple of months while the project works, but we're going to be scanning the data. And if you put some data that we feel is inappropriate for the business in, then we're going to be blocking that. Or it could be that those cloud applications represent something that could be of value to the business in a whole. It could be that marketing department at Forcepoint have found something that could benefit sales or could benefit development. So perhaps we start to adopt that. User-generated innovation is a really, digital transformation is a really good one. It's a great way for you to go back to your business and say, actually, look, we found something really interesting here. Why don't we start to collaborate better using this tool? And they go, my God, how did you find that? So tolerating shadow IT, going back to this point here, right, where you're going to tolerate it for a limited period of time, perhaps, it's a forward proxy thing. So you've got a managed device of people going out to an unmanaged cloud application, right? So you have control over that. You could put an agent on there. If you don't have Forcepoint Web Gateway or Cloud Web Security, put an agent on it. And then we could forward all the traffic for Box to the cloud application. And the same we can do with sanctioned cloud applications as well. We could do that with Office 365, for example. I'll explain that in a second. Well, of course, with Forcepoint, we've integrated the technology. So from the Forcepoint Security Manager, you can transparently proxy traffic. In this case, it's Office 365 to the CASB to be able to, just for that cloud application, for a certain number of users for a period of time, just for inspection of traffic for reduction of risk purposes. Now, what makes Forcepoint unique is we support any cloud application at all. With our license, if you find a SaaS application that your users are using, and we do not have it in our database of 500 connectors, we have a license with 15 cloud applications. Just fire in a support ticket and we will add it for you. We'll work with you to map it out and we'll add it for you. If it's something that's specific to you, if it's your own cloud application, there'll be a charge. But if it's a SaaS application, if it's a public cloud application, SaaS, IaaS, or PaaS, that we can reuse the connector for, then it'll be free. Now, of course, within our Forcepoint Next Generation Firewall, we can do the same. We can seamlessly, transparently proxy traffic for, well, in this case, it's there's two rules there: outbound access for CASB and Office 365, to CASB for Office 365, and then of course you can see that traffic in the events. But that's all what was called the StoneSoft Next Generation Firewalls, which is now Forcepoint's Next Generation Firewall. But of course, within we recognise that not everybody has all our products. So if you perhaps have Palo Alto, because Palo Alto supports single domain proxying. You could block it, but perhaps you could say, look, find me the IP addresses and the URLs that we need to paste into our Palo Alto or Checkpoint policy to forward traffic in a similar way to we do with our next generation firewall. So that was tolerating. Perhaps you'd like to adopt. Now, adopting cloud applications is not purely met by CASB. There are other considerations that you need to look at. So firstly, if we're going to adopt WeTransfer within a business, do we need to worry about the data? Where is the data stored? Do we need to worry about the behaviour of the users? Because it could be a high-risk application that could be used for data exfiltration, perhaps. Could the cloud application replace the existing service? This could reduce cost, right? So do you have, I don't know, an expensive, I'm not picking on, but EMC storage array or Dell storage array on-premise where WeTransfer could be used, or perhaps Dropbox could be used so it could start to recover some cost by turning that thing off. Is an app that the vendor provides enough, or do you need a desktop environment? Is it going to be, have you penetration tested the app, or would you prefer to use the web browser on a Mac or something like that? Should you buy it? Should you go through the formal vendor selection? should the legal relationship be with you or for the business? Is it enough to tolerate users signing up with their credit cards for AWS? Or should perhaps the business look at AWS or Azure and see which one is the right one? Then the control points, right? So there is the forward proxy approach with the sanctioned cloud application. But when it's sanctioned, you also, because we can provide reverse proxy control as well, because we can use SSO integration to say, actually, we're going to provide retransfer, but we're going to provide your company name.retransfer.com as a vanity URL, and then when the SSO the user tries to go to retransfer from for their company sanctioned account, it's going to redirect to a reverse proxy environment where we can control unsanctioned devices. So we can say, look, retransfer could be you get full access from a managed device, but you only get read access or upload access from an unmanaged device or from a third-party device. There's lots of variations there. And reverse proxies have come a long way. We have a global network of 55 locations around the world for our proxy environment, so we can make it really quick. So SSO, you might want to have the SSO for other reasons as well, like when you get rid of people. But SSO to control access is really important, especially around cloud applications, and our CASB integrates with all of them, SAML-based ones. Vendor selection, and what's the build and run model looking like for these cloud applications. So that was kind of a way to look at users using shadow IT in a slightly different approach. I'm going to now move over to sanctioned cloud applications, so things that you're providing for your users. And quite common, that's Office 365. So there is a kind of an Office 365 flavor to this, but it doesn't apply just to Office 365. We support any cloud applications really that you want to provide, and there's a number of different ways we can control them. But these are the top 5 risks that we see that a CASB system can mitigate. Number 1, you're putting data in. Well, put it this way, right? We did a shadow IT report for a customer a while back. They had 8,000 licenses, and the CISO sat down with me in a value realization session and said, "You've got 19 file sharing sites. That's wrong. It must be a false positive." And we looked, and there were 19 file sharing sites in use. So I looked at his name, and I found that he used Evernote at a certain point in time. And it was like, I get it now. It was like a moment of clarity. So what had happened was they had rolled out Office 365 on an E3 license. They tested the DLP in E3, but it was really bad. But in any case, E3 doesn't have the ability to unshare a link or to control external collaborators. So they decided, or he decided, that you couldn't do external sharing from E3, from the OneDrive. The problem was their email system capped out at 10 meg, and there was no other sanctioned file sharing system. But file sizes these days are a lot bigger than they used to be. So there was no company sanctioned way to transfer a file over 10 meg outside the business. And that was a problem for about 2,000 of their 8,000 users, including the CISO. So they kind of got off and did it themselves. So what we could do then was we could run an API connection to Office 365 and regularly scan data that people had put in there, and then see what the behavior had been. And if it had been oversharing, we could remove that if it's appropriate by policy. And that way they could go back to the business and say, look, you were using 19, come on guys. We're going to start turning them off unless you can give me a good business reason to not to. And this is kind of why it's important to talk to the business. Yeah, I know it might be a difficult one, but we want to try and help you talk in the same language as the business can. Try and get them real value. No one really wants to use shadow IT. What they want to do is get stuff done. Second one is the reverse proxy use case, where you could roll out Office 365 or Box for your users, and then they could access it from an unmanaged device and get full access. That's it. You could put draconian controls in, like IP address restricting and conditional access on some cloud applications, but really there's no unified way to do it other than reverse proxy. The cloud systems have become the new attack surface, right? If the data is going into the cloud, guess where the attackers are going. And often the clouds are quite cloud systems are quite porous. You can federate access and stuff like that. So malware could come in by that SSL encrypted channel straight from Box straight into your environment, and being able to look at that as a malware system, look at that malware and try and mitigate it. It's important. What else are we doing? Yeah, administrator control. So, people can access, administrators have God mode really. And there have been instances where cloud application, like virtual machines in AWS and stuff, have been turned off accidentally. And that's caused consequential failure down the line, sometimes physical. There's an oil and gas company in I think it's Sweden or Norway that unfortunately had an explosion because somebody turned off something that affected a cooling system, and they turned it off from Southeast Asia because they were contracted to run that AWS instance. So controlling administrator actions could be an indicator compromise, could be accidental damage, could be that the Office 365 admin is starting to search in the notes within, the help system within Office 365 for ways to disable security provisions because they're leaving next week. Controlling all of that is really important. Of course, where is the data as well? So there are four architectures for CASB, and there are different controls that are good for different areas. And so first of all, the API architecture is awesome for unsharing files and file sharing apps. It's great for understanding whether or not the behavior of the users has started to go to a point where it might be risky, and also compliance as well. It's great to understand where is the data retrospectively, where has the data been put into Salesforce, for example, that could potentially be credit card numbers or personal data, and control over administrator actions. So API is good, right? The drawbacks of APIs are they're increasingly being throttled by cloud providers. And we're seeing that the common cloud providers are regarding APIs as being sometimes, damaging to the integrity of their cloud application because they're using lots of resources and they want to protect it. And that's right? It's never going to be real time with APIs. It's always going to be after the fact. But there's an unknown in there, which is the cloud provider giving you the data that the CASB wants. And it's just the way it is really. They need to protect their clouds, I get it. There's a reverse proxy approach, right? And that is very good for the unmanaged and what we used to call bring your own device approach. So users accessing cloud applications that the company is providing from devices that they don't own, or perhaps they're owned by their competitor when they haven't told their employer they're leaving, but they'd like to access the Dropbox from a competitor's machine. I'm choosing a worst case scenario, right? There's a forward proxy approach, right, where you can move selected cloud applications through the CASB in real time. We have a global network of gateways. So if you're based in the UK and then you decide to go to Japan and you want to forward proxy your traffic for, I don't know, perhaps you want to understand whether or not it's a personal Office 365 account that's being accessed from a managed device, which would be a real issue. People syncing their work folders with personal OneDrive. But you want to do it in a way that doesn't damage the user experience. You need to have a global network so that you can mitigate the problem of latency. All of our competitors have one location around the world in different, they have one in Europe, one in America, one in Southeast Asia, for example. We have 55. So we would go, if you travel from the UK, you'd be using the London node while you're in the UK. You then go to Frankfurt, you'd be then skipping over to the Frankfurt node for forward and reverse proxying. And then you go to Tokyo, and we would be using the Tokyo node. So it'd be nice and quick. And then shadow IT, right? So we want to find the logs. We want to get as much information as we possibly can. And this is kind of in a way that a CASB kind of works, like a bit like a SIM, where we want to just take log files from gateway devices, from networks, from wherever people get what's the last hop to the internet. And cloud security services like Zscaler, perhaps. Now we have integrated it, of course, with our technologies. So we get free shadow IT reporting within our on-premise and cloud web gateways. But we can work with anything, right? So my experience, and you can choose to take my experience or not, is that CASB has changed in the last few years in terms of what works. When I first started out in the CASB space, if you like, we thought that one CASB would be enough for everybody. Our CASB is the Rolls Royce of CASBs. Everyone should be using our CASB. Gartner is advising that customers, on September the 11th, Neil MacDonald advised, quite rightly, that customers should start with use cases that work, right? and choose best of breed partners, CASB providers for the use cases. It may be that you choose one CASB for one thing and one for another. It doesn't really matter that much. It matters from a vendor's point of view, but from you, it's going to benefit you because it's going to give you, a toe in the ocean with CASB. So we are very, very good in Office 365 to reduce the risk of oversharing from OneDrive. So if you haven't got Microsoft's E5 license, you're going to have that problem that this guy that I mentioned had, where they have no visibility and control over oversharing. So within an hour, we can control that. Technically, we can control that. The longer bit is you talking to the business and saying, please can we tombstone that file because it's risky. And the business going, I don't know about that. Shadow IT, right? So Shadow IT is there for free within your gateway devices, or we can run a test for others as well. So if you've got our gateway devices, you're kind of almost there, right? You can see, if you've got Office 500 Office 365 licenses and you've got 1,000 people accessing Office 365 accounts, if your Shadow IT is showing that, you have a Shadow IT problem with Office 365. And we can fix that by allowing forward proxy controls. So we can identify and control personal OneDrive use, for example. So what we want to try and do is work with you to build out your use cases within CASB to become more strategic. Eventually, we want to be ready CASB, but right now, we want to solve problems that are causing you issues. And eventually, you want to get to what Gartner would call a Carter model, right? So where you're continuously modifying your risk approach based upon the changing events. Those events are not just data and threat, they're persons as well. The whole idea behind Forcepoint, the reason why I joined, was because we monitor how people are behaving and the ebb and flow of their behavior. And we also monitor the way that they interact with technology and data. So start with chunks that you can work on. If you want to do a proof of concept with us, we will recommend no more than 3 or 4 use cases. We'll identify those. So first of all, we would identify where you perceive risk, where your main concerns are. We'd have that discussion. We will then identify 3 or 4 use cases that are proven to work, that we've identified that we can deliver within a reasonable space of time. And then if you're happy that we can meet those, or if you wanted to do a proof of concept or whatever it happens to be, and you then chose that you wanted to buy it, our consultants would pick up on that work that we've already been doing and put those use cases into production with you. We then go through a value realization process where we make sure that you are getting what you wanted. And if there's any technical help you need to get that done, then we'll go down that route. But what we really want to do is help you find more follow-on requirements. Our peers in your industry doing other things, because the license that we're going to give you has got, well, typically it will support 15 cloud applications, 1 API, and 15 forward and reverse proxy cloud applications. So you'd never use all those in the first wave. We want you to get more and more value, not only cloud applications, but also use cases around those. So the problem, in a way, with use cases is it can often be a little bit overwhelming and you can't see the needle in the haystack. And that could sometimes be mitigated by being able to correlate them together to provide meaningful information. And this last section, I'd just like to talk a little bit about how Forcepoint is quite unique in being able to correlate multiple use cases into actionable intelligence. So let's just take a user or a system, right? Situation where a user account could be a user cloud account for Box could be accessed from an unexpected country. The user's never been there. Perhaps the user account is accessed from suspicious IP addresses, maybe Tor exit nodes or something from our threat intelligence that suggests that it's not a good thing to do. Perhaps other cloud applications accounts that they've got are also under increased risk, and maybe somebody's doing some stuff at a time that we wouldn't normally expect. We have an insanely large data lake behind our CASB that could enable you to correlate that and enable action to be taken. We can take action, and we can also tell you that we've taken action, and we'll certainly show you how. So, Ira, in this fictional environment, is a Bytes sales manager. She gets a great job of actually going to Las Vegas for a security partners event. Okay, should we say that? Access to sensitive data. She uses her phone because Bytes is so cool, and she gets access to her work cloud applications from that. What Ira doesn't realise, and perhaps she should, is that Black Hat was on at the same time. So when she accesses the public Wi-Fi in Las Vegas on July the 22nd, she wasn't accessing the Bellagio's Wi-Fi. She was accessing some hacker's Wi-Fi, posing as the Bellagio's Wi-Fi. Now, she's never going to know what the difference is, right? The whole idea of, the hacker's doing it well is that he or she does his job right. But what they're doing is slurping up the credentials for Ira's Workbox account. So they now have control over that Workbox account. But the good thing is, the correct thing for the attacker to do is not to just take everything right there and then. Is to watch what's going on and see if they can take more. And the good thing is we're watching that behaviour with our CASB. So 4 days later, so 5 days later, count. We start to see an indicator of compromise. Ira doesn't use Android. She doesn't use that version of Android. And she doesn't access her box from Ukraine at the same time as she's in Las Vegas. It's impossible to travel that fast. So it is an indicator of taken, right? But we don't want to start blocking stuff just out of the box, like there and then. We want to see what's going on because there's not been a major breach yet. There is when she's recovering a few days later. This is when the attack starts. Okay, so her box account starts to be accessed again from Ukraine, and lots of data gets taken, or gets attempted to be taken. The Dropbox account from Israel at the same time, from Android, different versions. That just can't happen, right? So it's clear that she's being attacked. So we are going to block that. Well, we might let a few files may get downloaded, but not all of them. We're limiting the attack because we're doing it, and we've made a decision at a certain point in time that this is just too far. While she's sleeping, we can block it. So we have so I've worked with other vendors in the marketplace, and it's been often very difficult for a customer to get effective control over user behavior because it's amorphous, right? It's the difficult problem to solve is the user behavior. The reason why I joined Forcepoint is because we make stuff simple and out of the box for you. We know that you probably don't have the resources to hire a team of 5 to start creating policies around user behavior, so we make them for you. Simultaneous access from distant locations, right? Access from 2 widely separated geographic locations, impossible to travel that fast. High number of data download accesses, short time frame. Yeah, so maybe people access 3 or 4 box files in one go. They don't access the whole lot. Combine that with the different locations, that's kind of risky, right? Or if you combine that with the fact that they're accessing it from multiple, impossible to travel that fast from to those 2 different locations between Ukraine and Israel at the same time, there is definitely an attack happening here. So over time, we monitor what her behavior, and we have out-of-the-box policies that are combined automatically to apply with a high degree of certainty protection to a user from an account takeover, for example. And we can integrate that with your QRadar, Splunk, whatever it happens to be. So I'm going to hand back to Shona in a second, and I'd love if you guys have any questions. But basically, the summary, right? Use more cloud, use CASB, use Forcepoint, use Bytes. We can help you make it happen, but you need to talk to us. So thank you very much indeed for your time. 56 minutes. Okay, well, I think we've got about 5-10 minutes to go. Shona, over to you.
Yes, Dave, thank you very much. So I'd like to invite the audience to type any questions that they may have into the chat or the questions box, and I will address those and pose those to Dave over the coming minutes. While you do so, I just want to thank Dave very much for his time and his very concise look at CASB and Shadow IT. It's been a pleasure hosting with him, and also thank everyone for taking the time out of what I understand are exceptionally busy schedules to attend this morning. And so I do have one question just to get the ball rolling with. You talked a little bit about Office 365, Dave. What are the key issues with Office 365 or the most common issues that CASB can address?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, with Office 365, you don't really need to worry about the infrastructure around Office 365. Microsoft provide SOC reports that show that the the systems are penetration tested and they're all patched, and you know, all that's fine. Microsoft have a really good and evolving security infrastructure around data and, you know, the access, you know, administrator access and stuff like that. And we are a highly complementary technology into Office 365. But really, the kind of the big ones, if you like, with Office 365 is number one is the data. You know, how is the data being handled? You know, how is it being shared? How is it being collaborated with? And, you know, what parameters should you set as a business to what is acceptable and what is not? You know, and that's where CASB can really make that simple. It can make it simple in an API mode. It can also make it simple in the forward proxy mode as well. So, you know, do you want to control perhaps personal use as well of Office 365? Because as soon as you open up login.onmicrosoft.com, we find a high number of people going, oh great, I can you know, I can access my personal one as well now. I can access my live account. It's also really important to look at the administrator actions and control, you know, administrator behaviour, if you like. And it's a lot of the time, and we find probably, and it's difficult to put numbers on it, but a very small percentage of the time, user behaviour is a result of malicious insiders. It's typically as a result of people just doing stuff on a Friday afternoon and want to get home. So, you know, they perhaps you know, shut down some Azure VMs or by mistake, or they you know, they forget to deprovision a user, and that account gets laid dormant, and that could be potentially accessed by somebody who's left the business, that sort of thing. So controlling that, and then compliance as well. So being able to understand independently whether or not password reset times or you know, encryption settings or you know, password lengths, or, you know, any one of a number of issues that would conform to, you know, ISO 27002 or CCM or NIST 800-53. You know, so being able to independently assess the compliance of cloud applications like Office 365 against standards, and be able to map those back down to those standards, it's kind of really kind of a big area towards reducing risk. Good question though.
So
anyone gone to sleep? It has happened.
I was on mute, so I didn't get any feedback between my speaker and yours. If there are any other questions, please do type them in. I'll give it 30 seconds or so for you. The countdown clock has started for any questions. Otherwise, just to reiterate, we have recorded today's session, so feel free to share that with your team and within your wider business. We'll also make the slide deck available for you should you not be able to, you know, view the video for whatever reason as well. But thanks everyone for their time today. Thanks to Dave for his presentation, and good morning.
Thank you very much indeed, everybody, and Shona.